All right, we're live.
All right, welcome. This is Tampa Home Talk, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. In today's show, we are going to break down the housing market looking at the 2025 housing stats, and we're going to give you a whole year in review.
I love it. Can I get that one more time? I know we're live, but
Yeah.
this is gonna be something that we're just gonna redo real quick.
Oh, you don't like my intro? Got it.
No, you were looking at me.
No music. Okay,
and
got it.
I'm here, no music. That's right. So if you can just make sure we stay there, locked in. That's where everybody's at. Can you say hi, everybody?
Hello. Let's give y'all some 2025 numbers. Are we ready to rock? All right. This is Tampa Home Talk, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Today's show is going to be all about the 2025 housing stats. I'm going to give you a year in review as it relates to the housing market here in the Tampa Bay market. And yes, it is something to celebrate, Rob. I think those numbers will be a little different maybe than some of you are expecting. As I was looking through the data and all the information, it's pretty exciting. And so I'll just jump into some of these numbers and I'll break down what all this actually means and how does it relate to you if you are a buyer, seller, or maybe even investor in the Tampa Bay market. So first of all, let's look at 2025 compared to 2024, the number of closed sales. So the number of closed sales for a 4-county area, this is Hillsborough County, Pasco County, Pinellas County, and Hernando, single family homes only. So this is not going to include condos or townhomes or mobile homes, anything like that, or vacant land. But the number of home sales for single family properties, 39,410. That's how many happened in 2025, and that is up 1.6% from last year in 2024. The number of cash sales are actually up 4.2%. So out of those sales, we had over 10,000 of those that came in as cash sales in the market. Pretty good number there. The median home price, we are down 3%, coming in right at a solid $400,000 as the median home price. Now, as some of you may know, if you climb a little bit northern into Hernando County, you're going to get some of those lower prices. If you're looking closer to Tampa, especially on the South Tampa part, you're not going to be anywhere near that number for a single family home. But our median price, nevertheless, in all 4 counties is coming in right at $400,000. Now, last year, when we wrapped up 2024, I guess it's 2026. So at the end of 2024, that median home price was coming in right at $412,500. The average price gives you a better idea what all that data looks like. And in 2025, it was $505,475. That is down 3% from the prior year, which was $521 and change. Dollar volume, $19.9 billion worth of real estate sold, single family, in all of 2025. It's a lot of numbers there. All right, the median price of the original list price, and we are going to talk about this. I am going to get in that realty rant as it relates to this number and tell you what that means. This means basically from the original list price that the listing broker set with the seller, they said, okay, we think your house is worth $500,000 compared to what it actually sold. That is down almost 1%, meaning that sellers are not getting their asking price. They're coming down off of that number. And that number is 95.7%. So, Rob, if you want to do some real quick math for me, let's just use that 400,000 median price, if you will. I know it's not the average, but we'll use the median. And if you're at 95.7% of that $400,000, what does that number look like? Just to give my sellers out there an idea of what to expect, because this is down 1% over the numbers that came in 2024.
All right, you're asking me to do math on stream.
Yeah, I know.
That is the bane.
Do I gotta do it real quick? Here, I can do it.
Let's just take our math skills back. Remember,
all right.
I am a creative. So
yeah.
First off,
math, we're solid out.
Right.
All right.
So
Let me do this for you guys real quick. Yeah. So $400,000, and the median, sellers are getting 95.7% of their actual initial list price. So that means if you listed your house for $400,000, you're going to get a little bit over $17,000 less than that actual list price. So,
Yeah.
sorry, I should have had my math prepared as well, and I wouldn't be having to do it on the fly either.
Right. It was a $17,200 difference,
Yep,
right?
that's right.
Okay.
So if you listed your home for 400, that means you're likely closer to get almost 383. So you're getting a pretty significant number less than where you thought you were going to start. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to come back to that. Median time to contract. So this is up 26.5% over 2024.
What does the median time to contract mean?
So this means from the time you put your house on the market and it's live
Okay.
to when you get a buyer that says, hey, I'll buy it for this price under these terms, and you actually get a contract to close on it.
Oh.
Okay. So from the time you list it, the time you get a contract from the buyer. Last year, 2024, rather, it was 34 days from the list date to the time you got a contract. This year, we're coming in at 43. So that means that the buyers are moving a little bit more slowly. They're taking their time. They're looking at more homes, which, by the way, I haven't ripped apart NAR's profile of a home buyer and home seller. I usually do that. Haven't had a chance to study that in depth and bring it to you, but I will. And we'll do another whole show on that, on what that means. But basically, buyers, for the last multiple years have looked at 5 homes or less before choosing what home they're going to buy. I can guarantee you that number of homes has went up because it's now 43 days before sellers are getting a contract. And that's basically just a median number. Some of these guys are substantially longer. Different neighborhoods are longer. We've seen a lot of these trends over the last several months that we've been in it. So median time to sale. So this means, and this is up over 7, almost 8% over 2024. But in 2025, it took 83 days to get to the finish line. So 43 days to get a contract from the time that you list the property and 83 days to actually close on it. So to give you some perspective, if you listed your home on January 1st, it's saying by mid-February, you would get a contract on that, but you're not actually closing until nearly March. For those of you trying to get some perspective on this. Number of new pending sales. So this is actually up 2.4%. So more people are actually pending on properties than they were in 2024. So at the end of 2024, the pending home sales we had were 39,922. We're coming in 2025 at 40,871. So that's good. That means more buyers are making offers on homes. And I'll get into this data a little bit more in a minute. Number of new listings. This is also up just a little, not significantly, a little, almost 1%, coming in at 0.9%. The number of new listings for all 4 counties in 2025, 52,959. That is up a little bit from the prior year. The number of pending inventory. So at the time we were wrapping up at the end of 2025, 2,841 homes were pending, and the number of active inventory on the market was 11,765. That is also up 5.4% over 2024. Now, the other thing that's pretty great, almost 3% increase. Our absorption rate is a little bit higher than it was last year. And so it's pretty fascinating because I hear people say all this stuff, and depending on what you look at, there's some stuff I've seen on YouTube that say, oh, the sky's falling. The Tampa Bay housing markets are terrible. Okay, let me tell you something. If you mix condo data with single family data, yeah, you're going to get some crazy looking stuff. You really got to break those down separately and independently. For the purpose of today's show, we are just discussing single family homes. We'll likely do another one on the condo market. Even that is going to be super skewed because it's going to depend on what community you live in, how strong that community is. Are your reserves set? When you're done with your milestone inspections and your reserve studies, how liquid is your condo association and how far behind are you in terms of things that need to be repaired and by when? All of those things are going to have an impact on the price of where you're living, where you're selling. So single family homes to come in at a 3.6 month supply of homes, that's how we wrapped up the year in 2025. Compared to the prior year, we were at a 3.5 month supply of homes. So that's a tiny little inch up. These minor little moves are very, very good because this means that the Tampa real estate market is just balancing itself out. You have to think we came from an extreme seller's market, especially in 2021. We had a 2-week absorption rate. I've never seen that in over 30 years in the real estate market. I've never seen a 2-year absorption rate other than in 2021. And my hunch tells me that will be the only time I will ever see this as long as I'm selling real estate in the foreseeable future. And probably any of my children that also sell real estate probably will never see that either in their career. So what I'm telling you is a historical data point, if you will. Now, people will ask very often, oh, well, we must be in a buyer's market right now. We have to be in a buyer's market. Well, you swung from this extreme 2-week absorption rate, and now we're a 3.6 month supply of homes. Are we in a buyer's market or are we in a seller's market? Any hunch on that, Rob? What do you think?
I would say that we are in probably a buyer's market.
We're not.
We're not.
We're
really.
so far away from that.
This is how much
So-
people don't know, because I really don't know.
And there's this whole thing in the middle called a balanced market that nobody talks about. They think we just swing from a seller's market to a buyer's market. It's not how it happens.
Even though we have 3 months of supply, we're still not in a buyer's market.
We are not.
Really?
So a 0 to 6 month supply of homes is considered a seller's market.
0 to 6 months.
We're in a 3.6 month supply of homes.
Okay.
So we're still technically in a seller's market. A 6 to 12 month supply of homes, you're in a balanced market. And anything north of a 12-month supply of homes, you're in an absolute buyer's market. So go back to 2008. That was an extreme buyer's market. That data is very different than what we're looking at today.
Okay.
And I will tell you, this also, what I'm giving you generic data for 4 counties in all of Tampa Bay. And I will tell you, if I go in and I look at the data and the markets and I look at what we call the absorption rate, right? That's the number of months supply homes, that 3.6 months absorption rate for all of Tampa Bay. But if I go and I look at the absorption rate for your particular neighborhood and I look at how many are active, how many are pending, how many are sold, that data tells a story. And I'm pulling comps just for your home. So if you're a small home or a little average style home, or you're above average luxury type home, all of this data is important because what this says is also, I went into a listing yesterday, Rob, and I had already signed this listing last year in August, and the data is significantly different, right? That list price is lower. The time on market is lower. I've got a client that is military. They're looking to exit the military. And now that they have the actual date that they're going to be moving, we have to look at this and backtrack so that we know when to put this home on the market so we have ample time to sell it and we can time this out appropriately for the seller. So that's what I mean by real estate is so hyper local. And so as I'm going in and I'm looking at this, I had to tell them, look, you're anywhere from 90 to 135 days to get a contract and a sale on your home. So expect it to take at least 3 months to get a contract on your home. Now, if you look at this data I just gave you, Rob, what did I tell you? 43 days is the median time to contract, right?
Right.
Well, this particular community, and this was a home in Plant City, which is still Hillsborough County, but it's a different part of Hillsborough County. That particular area was saying 3 to 4 months to get a contract on the home. And the prices were, the other thing too, and this is one of the things I'm going to spend some time on, right? So I went back and said, all right, 95.7%, you listed your home. Maybe you're a seller and you're listening to this or you're watching this saying, my home's been on the market. Here's where we started. We've had some price reductions and I still don't have a contract on it. I guarantee you, looking at generic data and numbers, unless you're 95.7% and probably lower than that of that original list price, that's what it's going to take to get that home sold. And sometimes it's also condition, marketing, photos. There's a number of things that can cause your home not to sell. And that is definitely my lane. That's an expert lane that I run in all of the time. I can walk into any home, tell you why it didn't sell, tell you what's wrong with it, and put together a whole plan to make sure it sells.
What's the biggest one?
The biggest one?
Yeah. What's the first key indicator for you?
Right now, in this particular moment, I would say it's pricing. So people are a lot of these agents, I say the 80-20 principle, right? So there's a lot of agents, many of them have dropped like flies. But you have 20% of any profession. I don't care if you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a CPA. your profession, 20% of you guys are rock stars. You're absolute rock star badasses like me, right? You know your craft, you know what you're doing, you've got the experience, you've got all the historical track record of all the things that you've done. Your peers are going to be the other 80%, which means they're mediocre at best. That's just the way it is. Some of them are new, still gaining experience. Some of them are just always mediocre. Some of them are below average. And then, of course, you have some that are terrible, right? It's just the way it is. Any profession, but 20% are going to be your rock stars. They're going to be able to go in and tell you what's wrong, how to fix it, and here's what's going on, right? So if you're a doctor listening to this, you may have someone that has seen 12 other doctors. They come to you, you're a specialist. And because of your history, your expertise, and your time and your experience, you can see stuff right away that other doctors maybe missed because of your experience, the number of people you've worked with, the number of years, and just the number of patients that you've seen. The more practice and data and information and clients you have, the better you're going to get at it, especially if you're successful in your craft. So for me, that means actually selling the homes. For a doctor, that may mean actually figuring out what you're doing, right? For an attorney, that's coming to a resolution, right? Maybe in a quicker amount of time, although attorneys like to bill by the hour. That's a different story. But even the good ones, and I know some amazing ones that still bill by the hour, they're going to be pretty upfront and tell you, look, do this. This will be more advantageous and you won't have to pay me so much, right? So the good ones are going to be very forward and straight shooting. They're not going to BS. They're going to be very straight to the point and tell you matter of fact how it's going to be. And that's what you can expect from me. So I'm not going to come in and tell you what you want to hear. And I always like to ask people, and I love when sellers play this game. I'll say, tell me where your head's at. What do you think your house is worth? Just give me an idea of what you think, just so I know what I'm walking into and I know what to expect, right? I love it when the number's higher and I get to tell you guys, awesome, the numbers are actually better than what you're expecting. In this market, I'll tell you it's probably lower because you probably have a number stuck in your head from 2021, 2022, 2023. We are not in that market. We are now in 2026. This is very different. And people are overpricing homes, right? They're letting the sellers dictate where they want to list the property versus being the real estate professional and showing up saying, look, your house is not going to sell for this. Here's why. And I tell my sellers, look, I don't make the market. I interpret it. It's my job to understand all this data and then help you understand it in a simple way so that we can get your house sold for the most amount of time for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of headaches, right? And I will be very upfront with people. When you sell your house, it's not the most fun thing to do on the planet. When you meet with me, unfortunately, I'm up there with like death, divorce, and taxes. Nobody wants to go meet with their CPA. They don't like you. No more than you like them, right? We like people probably a little more than the average CPA as real estate pros. But the fact of the matter is, these agents are getting it wrong. They're letting the seller dictate the price. And the fact of the matter is, when you miss that initial buyer, meaning you have buyers that are in the market, they're hunting. I already told you the median price, 83 days, right? To get it closed, 43 days to get a contract. Buyers are taking their time. They're being selective. They are looking to see how old your roof is. They're asking all the questions. They're looking at properties to make sure they're getting what they want. They're taking their time. They're not rushing to make a decision like they were in 2021. And so this means that they're going to make sure they're getting what they want. So when a buyer passes up your home, they're just going to pass it up. They're not even going to come back to it, even when you reduce the price, because they're going to say, in their mind, they've already dismissed that house for one reason or another. And the reality of it is probably 80% of the time it's based on price. This is a competition. You got to be the best looking one in your realm of people or whatever it is, in this case, houses. So the buyer has to see value. They have to say, ooh, that's a really good house for the price. It's better than the other ones I've seen. That's the one I want to buy. That's the seller that wins the competition. Right now, if you're price reducing, I can't tell you how many times, Rob, I go in and I look at this data with the sellers, right? I'm looking at the comps and I'm like, all right, you want to list your house for $550. Great. I'm telling you it's worth $450. Let me help you understand why it's worth that number, right? So we'll go in and I'll look at the active properties that are still on the market. Some of these guys, 100, 200, 300 days. We see ridiculous numbers. And I tell my sellers, look, this is a sitting duck. You can ask for $1 million. It doesn't mean that's what your house is worth. It's a sitting duck. It's going to sit there and sit there and sit there until it's priced correctly, it's marketed appropriately, and you have someone that knows what they're doing driving the bus to get you where you want to go. And that's just a fact. Unfortunately, I hate to tell you, but you don't want to be chasing down the market. If you're chasing down the market, your number you get is going to be lower. I promise you. In this market, I have sellers that will price their home appropriately. They'll listen to all of our advice in terms of how to make it show well, in terms of the repairs and the little things to do to make it show like it should when it hits the market. These guys will get multiple offers. Now, we're not getting 10 and 12 offers like we did back in the day, but if you get 2 offers, you now have a multiple offer situation. That's a much better position for a seller to be in than to be waiting and chasing showings, trying to figure out what a buyer thought about your home. Like, this is not a position you want to be in as a seller. And I hate to tell you guys, we're in a seller's market. We're not even in a balanced market. So when it gets rough, y'all are really going to feel it. But this is nothing. My real estate peers that have been doing this for a million years like me, you guys are probably watching the video laughing, going, yep, we know exactly what she's saying. They're saying, yep, we got this one. All right. Let's look at a couple other things. I like to skip ahead to the closed sales by price. And this is broken down less than 50,000, right? Laughable that we even have some data in this, right? But 18 properties, believe it or not, actually closed for under 50,000. Shocking. Probably land value teardown would be my assumption. But that's what that is. So 50,000 to just under 100. So 99,999. We had 115 of you guys close in 2025. 100,000 to 149,999. Surprisingly, we had 419 sales in that price range. Yeah, shocking. We couldn't even find anything in that price point for the longest time. And we'll look back on this probably in a couple years and go, dang, you can't even buy anything for that price. It'll happen. Watch. So y'all think, oh, I'm buying a dumper for that. Just wait. 150,000 to 199,999. Shockingly, with over 1,000 sales, 1,080 sales were under $200,000, but north of 150. And in that 200,000 to 249,999 price range, 2413. Shocking that we had that much, but we did. And some of these numbers are way up. So I go back to even 150,000 to 199. That's almost a 31% jump from the prior year in terms of having sales and properties available in that price. When you look at 250,000 to 299,999, 3,735 home sales. That's up 15, almost 16% from the prior year. And when we look at 300,000 to 399,999, that's where most of our sales are. So this bracket and the next one. So we had 11,640, and that's pretty in line with the year before. Not much of a change in terms of percentage. This one, the next bracket's down 4.5%. But that's those of you guys that close in that 400,000 to 599,999 price. And then I don't like this grouping. I really wish Florida Realtors would change it in terms of data, because I'm telling you, there's a magic number in there right around 750. There is, I promise you. If your house is in this price range from 600,000 to 999,999, I can show you the data where the 750 is just this magic bullet number. But there was 5,800 sales in that price range, down a little, 1.1% over 2024. And properties over $1 million, down 6.1% from 2024 to 2025, coming in at 2,352 sales, over $1 million. And that's in 4 counties, single family homes for the entire year. That makes sense to you guys. All right. Whole bunch of other really, really good data in terms of the median time to contract. And to give you an idea, the numbers are pretty consistent. Anything over that 250 price point, right around 47 days, 40 to 47 days. 38 days from 200,000 to 249,999. It's pretty consistent on down. When you get under 50,000, those guys are moving in less than 15 days. Because again, that's a tight price point. We won't see that. You'll never be able to buy that again in the future. So pick it up if you're looking to buy something. All right. Inventory by list price. So this is a good one to chat about. So 200, I'm going to kind of go right to the middle and tell you about some of this data. So 250,000 to 299,999. This is down 4.6% from 2024. And we only had 956 available inventory. Our sweet spot, which is where all the house prices are, 300,000 to 399, we had 3,088 available for sale, and then 400,000 to 599,999. Again, that's way too big of a gap. 3,584. I told you the median price is right around that 400 mark, right? So we got two little groups of buyers. It's just not good data, in my opinion, especially being that our average house price is in that 400,000. We should break all those down, in my opinion, in $100,000 categories, because I think it would give you a much better idea on the data and the numbers. And the final one, I'm just going to spend a few minutes on this one and take away the sky is falling mentality, because this is for the entire year of 2025. We'll talk about our distressed properties. So the number of traditional home sales, that was most of them. And when you look at foreclosures, take a guess how many foreclosures we had. 4 counties, single family homes for an entire year, Rob. What do you think? Give me a guess.
Was the number higher last year than it was?
Yeah, a little higher.
Previous
A little
years?
higher of 2025, 2024. To be expected. The economy is changing.
Yeah, yeah.
As a matter of fact, it was 28% higher, but that number was kind of low, if you ask me.
Wow.
How many do you
A
think?
quarter. Ooh, man, I'm not even
Rough guess. Foreclosures, 4 counties,
50,
single family homes.
50K?
No,
No?
247 properties.
Wow.
You see why I laugh at this
Yeah,
data, right? Okay. So yeah, it's up
Well, less than 300
28%.
were foreclosed on
Yes,
in 2026 in the 4 county.
correct. There was 193. I think I can't read with
Wow.
my blind
Is that
eyes.
just because, do you think that's because banks are more willing to work with people that
No,
are stuck in those
no,
situations?
it's because the market's been hot. You don't need to foreclose when you can sell it to anybody quick, right?
Sure.
So if you're in a pre-foreclosure position, why on earth would you foreclose when you could just sell it and make money? You have equity. It doesn't make
Sure.
sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the foreclosures, I think, went up because some of these people probably bought in these latter years and now the prices are dropping, so they don't have any equity. So they walk away and give it back to the bank. I'll give you a word of caution. Don't do that. Go into a short sale. Let somebody like me help you in that situation, because you actually have a sale date. And then if you want to buy in the future, which you're not thinking about right now, but I promise you at some point you'll probably want to, you'll want that to be a firm date. If it's a foreclosure, it isn't. Sometimes it's like chasing a ghost. That could be a whole rant I could get into, which I'm not going to get into right now. But short sales, that's up, this is funny, over 86% from 2024 to 2025. But that's because we only had 51, I think, if I'm reading this right. Yeah, 2024. And we had 95 in 2025.
Wow.
For short sales.
Wow.
So more foreclosures than short sales, but all in all, that is such a tiny little
Sure.
percentage of the market. I mean, it's so tiny.
Yeah.
I also pulled January 2025 compared to December 2025. Now, December is going to be probably pretty close to the numbers I just went over, but I thought this is a pretty good, like, just quick little thing to look at. And I'll tell you something cool in this data too. We'll talk about this just real quick. So at the beginning in January, we had a 3.7 month supply of homes, right? At the end of December 2025, we have a 3.6 month supply of homes. What does that tell you?
People are sitting on their houses longer?
No, the market's heating up a little.
Oh, okay.
That little tenth
See, I'm
means
just always the opposite. I'm
it's
just started guessing
moving.
the opposite thing.
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking.
Remember, a 3 to 6 month supply of homes is a balanced market. We're still in 3 whatever, right?
Right.
So I told you January, 3.7 month supply of homes, and December was 3.6. That means you had more buyer activity in December versus January, which I think is pretty cool. So also a couple other things worth noting. So median sale price, right? January of 2025, it was $394,990. December coming in at $410. And then our average, which, you know, is the average of all of them, a little bit skewed data because you could have $1 million properties in there. but 491, 564 in January. And then we're 518, 416. So that tells you the prices are actually heating up a little bit as well. Dollar volume significantly higher. So 1.2 billion in January compared to 1.7 billion in December. So a lot more activity happening at the end of the year versus in January. And the percentage of original contract price, this got a little bit worse in December. So that means it was 95.3% of the original list to sales price in January. By the time we rolled around in December, 94.5%. It was also taking 52 days to get a contract compared to 41 days in January. So isn't that interesting? Like, market improved a little bit, but some of those other data points move the other way. So I just think it's really fascinating. I mean, look at your pending inventory in December. We had a lot. We had 2841, but you look at January, we had even more. So 3989. Look at the number of active listings in January, 12,078 compared to December was 11,765. So we had a little bit less inventory on the market. And that tells me that our buyer activity is picking up. So buyers are coming to the realization that the market is what it is. The prices are what they are. We did have couple little rate drops this year. And I think that tiny little bit helped spark buyer activity as well. So in a market like this, where, granted, we're still in a seller's market, so you got to be reasonable, You can't go in on a $500,000 house and say, "Oh, I want to offer $300,000 or $400,000." It's probably not realistic.
That's not realistic, yeah.
Right? We're going to want to make an offer based on the comparable home sales because that's a real market data point. But I can tell you that stuff is still moving. More buyers are reentering the market. We can see it looking at this data from January to December, and I can see it looking at the 2025 market cap updates. The number of price reductions. Y'all, if you're a real estate pro and you're watching this, don't be too proud to reach out and ask for help. Y'all are pricing this wrong. You don't know how to read the data points to get it right. You're hurting your sellers. You're harming our industry. You're making us look like fools. Get it right. I should teach an entire class on how to read data, how to read comps, and how to price it appropriately for the market. How to give your seller realistic expectations on how long it is going to take to get that home sold. I tell them right away, we're not selling your house in 5 minutes. Buckle up, keep it clean. It's going to get fun. You're going to have some showings before we sell it. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be matter of fact. I am not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear to get your house sold. And if you're sitting here and you're listening to this, you're watching, or you know somebody that's like, man, my friend, they have not been able to get their home sold. It's been on the market for a year. I promise you they're doing it wrong. There's stuff wrong. Call me. I'll fix it. I'll tell them how to get the house sold if they want to sell it. Or off your numbers, 813-377-2775. If you've got a question, you want a market update or a CMA for your home, I can tell you a really good idea what it's worth without even looking at it. If I can look at it, I can get you a much better idea. That's right, on point. Call or text 813-377-2775. You need to sell your home. Maybe you want to invest. I've had clients last year even pull money out of a self-directed IRA, take it out of the stock market, put it into real estate. You can do that. If you want information, you want to know how to do that, let me know. I got a client that bought a stellar property last year doing that. And I liked it so much, I bought the one across the hall myself. So after they made a decision, of course. So I'll never compete with you guys, but I will give you solid advice to help you sell your home. If you want to put together a plan on how to build your real estate empire and do this trade up, leave a trail of real estate behind you. That's what I preach to every single one of my kids and my younger generation. That's the way to build wealth. Do the 2-year millionaire plan and trade up every 2 years. I talk about that in my book, Selling Through Relationships, Why Cold Calling Sucks and Relationships Win. I talk about that, how to be a millionaire in real estate in the simple way. It's so simple. If you want to put together a plan on how to grow your empire and build wealth, call or text me. I can help. 813-377-2775. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk, and this is my 2025 market update or market rant, whatever you want to call it. In any case, live where you live or we're going to fix it. Welcome home.